In this video, we'll see more flexibility with functions when it comes to assigning it. And in the next videos, we'll learn about more flexibilities when it comes to Python and functions. You can think of any variable, including function, that's something that we can assign. So, for example, if we have here a function, for example, receiving a and b as two variables and returning something here, I can create another variable here, let's say call it my fun, and assign to it a fun. And the reason behind that is everything in Python is an object, including functions. So you can normally deal with a function like an object that you are assigning. You can pass to another function as a variable, and you can receive it back from a function as a variable. So you can assign and you can pass and you can return a function name by itself. Now I can come here and call something like my function 10 and 3. There is no directly defined function named my fun, but it's assigned from this fun function. So my fun here is as same as the fun function here. And then you have to be always careful. Are you using the function as a variable name or calling it? So you can use it as a function, as a variable, or you can use like a calling it. In a very similar way, given that you can assign, it means you can pass and you can return. Let's define here a generic function. Its name is process. It takes something that we can iterate over it, let's say like a list, and it takes a function that we are going to apply on every element before summing them. So here I'm iterating on every element on the iterable and applying some function that I don't know, and its result is summed with sum and return it here. Now let's say we have this list of 3 elements, 2, minus 4, and 6. I can have something like process list and pass the absolute function. Now thinking here, remove this fun and imagine it is like plus equal absolute of value. You can understand the code. All what I would like you to expand your idea about function is it can be passed here and we can use it without knowing what is originally this function was. In a similar way, I can define my or square root function that take n and return n times n. Then I can process the list and the square function. Try to think in a more generic way. For example, we can create a list of functions and then I can iterate over the list of functions and pass them one by one. So as you see, we can assign it, we can pass it, we can create a list of it, we can return it, deal with it completely as a variable. And the special case is when you started to put this parenthesis here, then it is callable for you, something that we can call. Back then to the sorted function and many other functions in Python. Remember, the sorted function can return for you a sorted list of the items that you provided. I have here a list I am, Mustafa, and you. If I try to sort this list, I will get I, Mustafa, you, am, and. The default criteria here is based on what we learned before about the lowercase letters and the uppercase letters and so on. But what if I would like to sort them based on a different criteria? You can pass the function that will be evaluated on the items to allow comparing them. For example, the argument that here is called key argument. So this sorted function has an argument key that is expecting a function from you or something callable. We are passing here star.lower. Observe .lower doesn't have parentheses. This means that I would like you to compare the elements after applying the lower function to them. Now this means that upper and lower will not be a concern anymore. For example, am will come in the begin and after it because they start with letters A, so they will have higher priority if we are comparing when elements are lowercase letters. Here is a different perspective. What if I would like to sort them based on the length? For example, if you are a shorter length, you come first. Now you can pass the length function. Now instead of comparing Mustafa and you, it will be comparing the length of Mustafa and the length of you and order them based on the smaller first. That's why I here is the begin because 1 letter. AM is 2 letters and you are 3 letters and so on. You can define your own function. For example, this function is taking a string. If it is empty, then it's just returning empty string. Otherwise, it returns the last character but lowercase letter. And now you can pass this function. When you pass it here, it's going to order them based on the last character. That's why Mustafa comes first, because it ends with the A as a lower letter case. And so on. I know it takes some time to start to think in this new way, but I would like to get used on passing functions and making use of it. Let's see another interesting example. Let's say you would like to get the length of the longest item in this list. If we applied max on this list, we will get the string that has the greatest value in terms of comparison. In other words, if we sorted the list, it will be the last element of the list. But what if I would like to get the maximum according to a different criteria? For example, I would like to get the maximum according to the length. I would like you to find the item that has the longest length. I can now pass here maximum, the list, but the key is the length. The key is the length. Now the maximum of the list will return Mustafa. Applying the length of Mustafa, it will be 7. With this nice syntax, we return the length of the longest string in the list. As you see, we can pass function here, which is very interesting. And in a very similar way, you can return a function like, for example, might be the user is asked what kind of criteria to sort. And if one, we are going to return str.lower, otherwise length. And then we take the returned function and apply. I know it takes some time to be more comfortable with that. In a very similar way to see the flexibility of playing with functions. Let's say we have a class employee that has a print function. Actually, this is a method. And then we would like to hack this class in a way or another. And we have here a normal function that doesn't take parameter, similar to the print function. It doesn't take parameter except the default self function here, self object. And we can create employee object and print it. But I can replace the method with another function. I can write employee.print equal hack, and then I can print it, which is now printing hey. So as you see, we can even replace the content of a function or a method in a class this way. Finally, I would like to administrate in a stronger way for you. What does it mean that everything in Python is an object? What does it mean for a function to be an object? When we say something is an object, at least it means it has attributes, right? So if you try to, we have a function here, fun. If you try to print its type, you get class function, okay, which means it's a part of a class. Now, as an object, we can write something like fun.dictionary, which is empty because it doesn't have attributes. Now let's make this more fun. I'm going to add an attribute for a function. So here function.counter equals 0. The function each time get its counter and increment it with 1 and print it. When we call this function 3 times, we get printing 1, 2, and 3. In practice, we rarely try to add an attribute to a function. I'm just administrating for you what does it mean. Everything is an object, even functions in Python. If you are coming from a programming language like C++ or maybe Java, you might be surprised about that, but this is really an interesting thing in Python. That's all.